Hello, creatures of the world. Warm-blooded, sentient creatures of the world. Uh, I looked up sentient, and it just means you're aware of your surroundings. I think that's pretty much what it means. I thought it meant more than that. I don't think it does, though. So that would make Harvey dog here. Hey, Harvey. Harvey, are you a sentient being? Hey, excuse me. I'd like to ask you a question. Harvey, can you guys see him? I hope. Harvey, hey. Can you look at me for a second, Harvey? No, he won't look at me. Okay. Sometimes I wonder about that dog. What he could do if he had his druthers. I've been trashing photography as a career for a while now, but I mean, I had some spectacular wins. Wins meaning money. In my ongoing efforts to support my family back in the day. We're talking about the 80s here, and the 90s actually, except the 90s leading up to 1993, there was a fair amount of aerial photography even then, but 93, my divorce pretty much took over the direction that my life was going, and it was going, where was it going? It was going to the poorhouse, because my expenses immediately on my divorce on January 7th, 1993. How could I forget that? Immediately, my expenses tripled. Immediately. Anyway, leading up to that, I had some spectacular wins, and it gave me the false belief that I could make a living at it. And if you got lucky, and later I got lucky, but by the time I got lucky enough to get enough business to make some amazing money at aerial photography, I was working at Bell, and I'm not giving up the career at Bell. I mean, for me to give up that career at Bell with the benefits and the benefits for my children, with the health care benefits, holy moly, you cannot imagine how good the health benefits were at Bell. It's just, they're not repeated in any other company anywhere, I'm pretty sure. And as many issues and problems I had with the CWA, my God, what a crazy group of people. They were the ones that established that as a benchmark for health benefits. So I had a friend who went in the hospital for like 2 weeks straight. 0 copay from working at Bell or Verizon. Take your pick. So as I got into that career, I had an aerial opportunity, and this was subject of another video of mine, but I had an aerial opportunity that I just, to this day, I can't believe it. It's just, I'm working at Bell, and I'm doing aerials just as to keep my pilot's license current. I'm not really doing aerials, but I noticed there was construction in a shopping mall close to where I live, and I apologize to the people who already know this. I just wanted to do a quick context. And so I noticed that, and I decided, I take my camera with me anyway. I've been an aerial photographer, for decades. And so even though I'm just flying to keep my license current, I take a camera with me, and I see something like that, boom, shoot it, take the pictures, do a sample package of 8x10s. I gave it to the customer, or not the customer, but to the prospect at the Exton Mall, Lathrop Construction, L-A-T-H-R-O-P. That's the name of the town in California where Tesla has this incredible battery factory now, Megapack battery factory. When they said Lathrop, I was like, Lathrop? That's the company that wanted me to do all of their projects. They were one of the biggest construction companies in the country. And I just sent them a sample package of aerials. And not only did they hire me, but then like 5 months later after they hired me, they came back and said, we want you to do aerials for all of our projects all over the country. And this is in my second year at Bell, really. I got into Bell in 97, not into Bell per se, but by this time it was 99. And I started with, an outsourced company, and Bell took us over late 98. And so for 99, I'm all the way in Bell. There goes a helicopter I see out around here every once in a while. He is low. Huh. Hello. He's kind of low. He's practicing approaches. Smart idea. So, yeah, Lathrop Construction. So let's just go, and so in the interest of context, instead of 99, let's say that's 1989. That would have been the break of my photography career, because 6 figures, easy. I mean, there's no way I'd do that job for less than 6 figures. But by 99, I'm in it, Bell, and my kids got full benefits. Plus, you know, doing the work for Lathrop all over the country, I'd never seen my children. They grew up with their mother. I saw them every other weekend, you know, but, you know, I didn't want to be absentee when or if, and definitely they would need me, you know. So I'm conditioning what I'm saying about photography. You know, I'm trashing photography as a career. But if you're persistent and you don't give up, you hang in there and you keep at it and you keep at it, you'll get some breaks. And I want to talk about one briefly that really elevated my career. And this is 1985, 86, I'm going to say. Maybe earlier, 83 or 84 maybe. There's a lot of construction going on in the Philadelphia area. And this company called IA Construction, well, let me back up a minute. The reconstruction, or the rehabilitation of the Schuylkill Expressway was this monstrous project. This is the busiest road in the Philadelphia area. And now maybe I-95 is a little bit busier, but not much. You know, at the time, the Schuylkill Expressway was being used by over 100,000 cars a day, and it was falling apart. So they came up with this huge project to rehab the expressway. The Schuylkill River, the highway borders the Schuylkill River going into Philadelphia from the suburbs. If you're in the suburbs, the typical suburbs of Philadelphia, the Schuylkill Expressway was your way in and out of Philadelphia. It was also the way to go to the shore, the Jersey Shore. So, you know, I saw this construction. I thought, okay, I'm going to go up, take some pictures. I go up, take some pictures of it. And this company called IA Construction, and they were in Route 1 and 202. What the hell's the name of that area there? Anyway, it's in Southchester County. They called me up, and they just finished this construction, the finishing of I-95 around the Philadelphia airport. I couldn't believe how antiquated. They're landing to the east today. Oh, how antiquated. Oh, that would have been a good shot. A plane, a Piper. It looked like a I forget the Pipers. It was a Piper, low wing. Just went and landed on runway 11, and as it was going on final, there's a road that goes right in front of the runway. There was a high bed truck that just went right, just directly underneath the airplane. That guy makes a short approach. That could be a hazard. Anyway, sorry. So, IA Construction Company calls me. I don't know how they heard about me, but you know, I stamped every print that I gave out to everybody on the back with my copyright, the name of my business, and my phone number. So they call me and they said, we're the general contractors on the I-95 project around Philadelphia Airport. I didn't know anything about it. And so I said, okay, that's my specialty, is aerials, if that's what you're looking for. And that's going to be I-95 goes right next to Philadelphia International. So flying around there and getting aerials is going to be a little touchy. I mean, you have to get the phone number for the control tower and call ahead of time and get permission, but you don't have permission to enter the airspace. They tell you, you know, when you get to the airport airspace, and there's a boundary for that, before you go into that airspace, you got to call us on this frequency to get clearance to come in, permission to come into the Philadelphia airspace. I said, okay. So IA Construction hires me, and I made good money on that job because I just decided you know, it's a one-time thing. They're never going to pay me to do anything ever again, probably. So they said they wanted pictures of I-95 up to Girard Point and then south of the airport to Route 320, I think it was. That's huge, and there were ramps, and Urban Engineers is involved in that too. The bridges. I'm talking about Urban Engineers like you know who it is, but they're the ones that I made the most money with. I'll tell you why. But IA Construction did the I-95. Urban engineers, there are a couple of bridges going over 95 for train, rail transit, and ramps and ramping going, and they designed it. Oh God, they made money on that airport. They're still making money on it. So anyway, yeah, Urban Engineers out of Philadelphia is one of the premier transportation engineering companies in the world. Rail, airports, and highways. That's their bread and butter. Bread, butter, I guess since there's three, bread, butter, and jelly. No peanut butter. I don't like peanut butter. But their bread, butter, and jelly are airports, highways, and rail systems. That's what they do. They could have expanded. I think they went into HVAC. They could have expanded. But anyway, so that's what they do. So I did this job for IA Construction. I think I made about, I don't know, $1,500 for one day of work. And came out great. I had to call, the control tower down there at Philadelphia International, and then so when you get to the airspace for the airport, you call them and you say, my name is Jerry Byrne, and here's the tail number. I called in the tail number ahead of time. I said, I need clearance to get into to fly around the airport so I can get pictures of I-95. And so another Piper low approach. Whew. Man, they get too low over that road. Anyway, I'm sorry to get distracted. So IA Construction, I do that job, they get it. Somehow Urban Engineers got wind of it, and it wasn't the general management or the upper level man. One guy somehow got a look at the pictures that I shot for IA Construction, and he calls me. His name is Bob. Works for Urban Engineers. He was the head guy for the airport division in Urban Engineers. And he goes, Jerry, I want you to come to my house. I live out here in Northeast Philadelphia, way up north. He gave me his address. He says, I want you to come out and take a look at this job that I'd like you to do. And I said, okay. I go to his house, and I didn't know that there was this kind of neighborhood in Northeast Philadelphia. I was thinking Northeast Philadelphia. I think of like, blue collar row houses and urban setting and everything else. Man, this place was nice, and it was like in a suburban neighborhood, but it was still in the city, within the city limits of Philadelphia. So I go and he asks, and he welcomes me, and he takes me into the dining room of the house. And on the dining room, he's got on the dining room table, he's got a spread of these blueprints of the airport, Philadelphia Airport, International Airport. This guy's shooting a lot of approaches. Smart move, dude. On a nice day, simulate stuff and be ready when the real emergency happens. Anyway, so on his dining room table, blueprints that were huge, took up more of the dining room table, all of the dining room table, and hung over the edges of the dining. That's how big these blueprints were. And he says, okay, I saw the work you did for IA Construction. He says, here's what I want. There's both runways, these taxiways, the terminal buildings, the airport. There's all these things going on all over the airport. Then there's a place over here where we park the car, the parking lot for airplane, and all there were like 15 or 16 targets he wanted me to shoot. And I started getting a lump in my throat. I started thinking, I was overwhelmed. I was pretty much overwhelmed, and so I just started telling him how uptight I was about making sure that I did this job and I did it right. Because what he wanted was a portfolio book of the work that he had done regarding the airport applications for Urban Engineers. That's what he wanted, like an album, like a wedding album almost. But the pictures inside would be really sweet pictures of an aerial shot of the overseas terminal ABCD, separately ABCD, the control towers, the runways. You have to go up, make sure the light's behind you, get a shot of the runways, taxiways, parking lots. It was just like, and I was writing these things down. I got to like the 15th target, and I started like shaking my head. I said, I don't know about this, Bob. He goes, okay, let's take a break before you talk yourself out of doing this, because he could sense what was going through my chest, and I was just started thinking, man, this is overwhelming. And everything's on a time frame. He didn't mention a time frame, but in pretty much any line of work, there's a time frame, and you better be aware of it. So ultimately, I said, okay, I'll do it. And he says, okay, he said he was gonna have the director of public relations for the company give me a call about my charges. I had no idea what to charge. I mean, this one was, for any normal job, I would just give an overall figure, $400, $500, $600, $700. You know, IA construction was $1,500. This was gonna take 6 weeks, probably, of shooting, and maybe five flights flying over the airport. The weather had to be right, and all this. I mean, all this stuff is just circulating through my head. And I said, you read me pretty well, Bob, because I'm starting to tighten up about this. I'm not sure that this isn't beyond me. And he says, okay, well, go home and think it over, and I'll have Nora Berry call you, and you know, get your charges approved, and then we'll go from there. I said, okay. And Nora Berry calls me, and she goes, okay, Jerry, I need to know what your charges are, what your rates are, what your day rates. She wanted to know my day rate. Okay, this is how immature I was in being a freelance. I said, my day rate, I always wanted to make $15 an hour. $15 an hour would be good. And she goes, so I said, $15 an hour. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, you want to know my rate? She goes, I don't want an hourly rate from you. I want a day rate from you. I just kind of like froze because I didn't know exactly what to say. I should have said like 750 or something. And then she comes back and she says, how about 300 a day? I said, okay. Great negotiator, right? 300 a day. I was like, oh, 300 a day? That is good money, man. That is really good money, especially then. I was, oh boy, I was bumping along. Anyway, so it was just spectacular because the whole thing resulted from me being persistent and producing quality, making sure that my customers are happy and satisfied with my work. So she says, okay, and I said, there's going to be a lot of expenses, and I need some upfront money for these expenses. And she said, well, what do you need? You know, and I said, this is just to get started, okay? But what we're talking about is my day rate, and we've agreed at $300 a day, and all expenses. And she goes, like what? And I said, you know, it's a funny thing when you do this though, because you need, as a businessman or lady, or as a business person, you need to cover your overhead, but you cannot include your overhead when you're pricing a job to a prospect. Okay, so overhead is electricity, mileage on your car, you know, whatever, office and administrative expenses there are. You got to be sure that they are included in your price. So, you know, the way I did it was, you know, the airplane was typically $100 an hour, and so I would charge them $125 an hour just because, you know, that covers the expense of my car going to the airport, driving around about this job. You've got to cover that, but you don't want to tell your prospect or your client, oh, this guy's landing while this other guy's like taking off. Oh my God. Oh man, I wish I had that video. Here's a video of something you should never do. The other guy just lifted off from the at the end of the runway, and the next guy is touching down. All right, anyway, this happened recently in Austin too, on a much bigger level with a Boeing 767 and a 737. Anyway, okay, sorry. So here, you know, and they agree to everything, and they want me to get started right away. So for urban engineers, for that month or two, maybe 3, I made about 7 or 8 grand. And once here's the kicker. You ready? So I produce this album and I deliver it to the guy, and the overseas terminal was just, the construction was just starting on that. He looks at it and he's blown away. And he said, this looks like a painting. And I was like, yes. Yes. He said, that's really good. Yeah. I mean, so photography, you know, the thing is, man, it's like Brian Hafley. I hope he sees this because he could relate to this. Brian Hafley, he was a nephew of a person that I knew, and he's a photographer in Connecticut. And I saw him a little more than a year ago at a funeral, and I asked him, and he's a photographer, professional photographer, and I said, Brian, I gotta ask you something about your business. He goes, okay. And I said, when you look at the time and the resources that you invest in your business, would it be fair to say that 10% is photography and 90% is just running your business. And he goes, Jerry, you're pretty close. It's really 5% photography and 95% business. And that is true. Especially you get to the level that where he is now and where I was, where the photography is all second nature to you. You know what you're going to do. You know how to get the job done. Equipment is an X factor because the equipment can just break on you at any time. I'm not going to go on about that, but that was a real nutcracker a couple of times. And that's the case. And probably that's why things kind of died out on me. Although later I had the Lathrop deal, which I still can't believe. And aerial photography, there is no better thrill in my life, except maybe sex, because hey, that's built into us, right? But on a professional level, man, when you get a win like that, I had a good number of wins, but boy, I tell you, man, when you got 3 little kids and all kinds of expenses, you know, what can I say? Anyway, so you want to be a photographer, go ahead. Just keep in mind that persistence and quality, quality meaning timely delivering your product in a timely way, in a professional way. Like all of my prints were color prints, just the way I wanted them, and then I put a small little label in the lower right hand corner giving the date, the view, the direction that I'm looking, and the name of the target. And God, man, but you know what surprised me is how well received my work was. It was just, man, it was good. It's really a good feeling, that kind of success. So anyway, I just wanted to mention to you guys that one of the good stories I had about photography. I have a number of good stories, but that one was just spectacular. They're still in business. They're in Philadelphia. You know? They're an international company, you know, and airports and aviation is not slowing down. If anything, it's picking up, man. People want to travel, and I understand that, man. People, especially in third world countries like India, China. China's not third world, but they're coming out of the third world to being a pretty prosperous nation. But India, anything, going anywhere in Africa, travel. That's like Tim Draper says. That's the solution to a lot of problems. People need to travel and meet other cultures, and bring down the cultural, the tribal barriers between people. That's opposite than what our previous president wanted to do. He was more isolationist. There's nothing isolationist about America, so you can, unless we cease to exist. Anyway, I wanted to share that story about Urban Engineers because it was just amazing. And so when I delivered this album to Bob, the airport director at Urban Engineers, it wasn't more than a week or two later that I got a call. You know what? I mixed it up a little bit. The work that I did for Bob and that album that I did for Bob did not involve the PR director. I charged something for the airport job. That's what it was. Okay, so the airport job, I charged something, I forget what I charged, not enough, no doubt. But it came out with this really fantastic portfolio album of all the work this guy had done in Philadelphia International Airport. And so he brought it to work. And one of their board meetings, he said, "Hey, look what I got." And all the guys from all the other divisions said, "Hey, we want that." Where'd you get this? And he goes, "Oh, as a photographer, aerial photographer, I know." That was me. Oh man, when your work shows up at a board meeting in a company like Urban Engineers, that's a win. That's definitely a win. I want to show you my smile about this because it's one of the best memories I have. So what happened was I delivered the airport job to him, and then he shows it at a board meeting, and all of a sudden I get a call, and the director of public relations, Nora Barry, I'll never forget her, God bless her. I wish I'd stayed in touch with some of those people. Anyway, she calls me, and that conversation that I just described went, about $300 a day. Okay, wow. But the end result was, when I did that job, I hardly made any money on the airport job, but the other divisions in the company, the rail division and the highway division, they said, we want this too. We want to be able just to show a portfolio of our work to a prospect like this. And it worked like a charm, man. Ooh, that company just is just got an amazing track record in civil engineering. So she calls me and she says, okay, all of our, just like Lathrop, okay, all of our other divisions in our company want you to do the same thing. And that's where I made the $7,000 or $8,000. You know, it was like, wow, it was a really good, uplifting experience for me as a professional and as an aerial photographer. Quality is important. Sorry that this took so long to describe, but I wanted to give you a plus on the, and that's just one kind of photography. Peace.